That's wonderful!
Hello and welcome to it, you guys. Welcome to another episode of That's Wonderful, the podcast. It's me, Joyce, Pring.
And I'm Atayde, and just a reminder for those that have listened to the first two episodes, thank you. And this is the only podcast where we discuss a lot of news trends, a lot of the tips and tidbits when it comes to living your life full of love.
And full of wonder at that, too.
That is true.
You guys have been wonderful for listening to the podcast and, of course, for sending us tweets and Instagram stories. Parts, nagulat ako, in fairness.
Huwag ka magulat nandito sa mga boss. Baka akala nila na hindi natin sanay ito.
Hindi, nagulat ako kasi sobrang heartwarming nung response from our listeners.
I loved it.
It's really been such an incredible experience for us. Please do keep sending us your messages. If you have topic suggestions, of course, if you have wonderful stories that you'd like to share with us, please do so. Of course, this is a partnership with Globe, and we're very thankful to Globe for putting us back together.
Yes, and of course, That's Wonderful has a digital newsletter for those that want to read up on and the podcasts are not enough. You guys can find them in Globe's website and social media channels. So how have you been?
I have been jet lagged since the last time you saw me. I know we both had like a US trip, pero nagkasalisi tayo. I actually went to the States for just a couple of days just to visit my best friend. And I think that's wonderful because this is one thing that I learned. For relationships to work, any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or it's a familiar relationship, there's really a certain level of effort that you have to extend for it to work, right? Like for me, my effort has been to constantly do my US trip. This is my 4th year in a row to go to the States because I wanted to keep in touch and see my best friend because I know myself enough to say that nakakalimutan ko yung tao pag di ko siya nakikita.
I know this for a fact because
out of mind, out of sight ako eh. I don't know if you guys are like that.
You're the same way because when I landed in LA and I posted a story that I was like, bye Manila, you replied to my story and you're like, hoy, ba't ka andyan? Ba't di mo ako sinasabihan? And I was like, you know what? I completely, I was so focused on work that I forgot to tell a lot of people that I was going to be going to LA and, I was going to be there for work. You are in New York as well, right? And the city that we both have fallen in love with. It's
That's
amazing.
true. I did a side trip in Washington, D.C.
Oh!
For a whole day.
Side trip DC.
Side trip DC, la lang. And then I went to Virginia and then I went back to New York for a couple of days. And so, yeah, it was a really, really fun trip. How about you, Bart? What'd you do in LA?
I had to cover a sports event, which is always something that I love, but I was only there for 3.5 days. So I was mostly hit with a lot of jet lag, and I'm still recovering from it right now.
Sino ba naman kasi nag-LA for 3.5 days? That's
people
ungodly.
That have work. And a lot of people that were actually in New York when you were there for the US Open.
Oh,
and
yes.
I was following it the whole time, and I was like, maybe I should detour and head to New York because there were so many great stories that were coming out of the US Open, and I was super engrossed in it, and the entire US was as well because there was such great action and, like I was saying, storylines along the way.
I've never been a sports fan. I'm just horrible at it. Maybe that's why. But I've started to understand why sports is so important in our lives, right? And why people are so engrossed by it and so committed to it. It's kind of loko na parang grabe nag-aaway yung mga tao just because of sports, but then you understand the passion behind it and then you kind of like okay, get. So for you, what makes sports so endearing?
See, for me, sports is, if you're just looking at it, it's just numbers and stuff like that, but that's not what makes sports great.
That's not it.
What makes sports great are the storylines that come along with it, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, there will always be storylines that you will follow, whether it was, the way that Gilas did at the World Cup, or it is, what's going on in the NBA, or especially what goes on in individual sports, because that's where there's a lot of stories. And with tennis, we saw that because of what was going on in both the men's and women's division of the US Open.
I heard so many stories from the US Open.
Yes.
I had a couple of people that I was following on Instagram. Wala akong friends na nakapunta ng US Open. Does that say something about me?
I have one friend that went to the US Open, and it was Eli Aguinaldo.
Oh, see? That's
He
amazing.
was there. He watched it, and he was brought there actually because of Globe.
Oh, cool.
And he got to watch some of the matches, and I was dying. I was like, LA, you are living the dream that I have always wanted to. I always wanted to watch tennis because even if you don't watch a lot of tennis, there's a certain majesticness, if that is a word. I don't know. I made it up. But it was so great. See, the whole time I thought majesty was like a royalty. Magistry pala yun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so LA saw it. And, the one main story that was coming out of it was, I don't know if you came across it, but there was a match between Naomi Osaka, who won the US Open last year, and Coco Gauff, who was like the Naomi Osaka that was supposed to be from last year. She's like the new edition of it, and they played each other, and it was so emotional during and after the match. That was just insane because Coco Gauff ended up losing that match to Naomi Osaka, and she started crying because Naomi came up to her and was encouraging her. It's like, no, everyone loves you, and they both represent the U.S., so like the whole New York was buzzing with a lot of love for both of them, and it was so great to see encouraging other women athletes, and it was resonating with a lot of women across the world that this is the way that it should be. We should be lifting each other up in all of the facets, whether it is sports or in the office or in school. This is the way that it should
Yeah,
be.
I came across this news bit, but then before this, like maybe a week before that, I saw this video online about Serena Williams and Bianca, the other tennis player, in the Rogers Cup, and the same thing happened. So Serena had like a back injury pala. So during the game, she had to stop and she had to drop out of the game. And Bianca came over to hug her, tell her, "You're a legend, you're a monster, you're so good at what you do." And I can relate with the kind of, I guess, the injuries that you're suffering through. And I was crying when I was watching that video, only because I grew up with like this constant narrative of women are always pitted against each
Of
other.
course, yes.
Like in my work, whenever I work with female hosts or a female actress, the first thing that people would always ask me is, "Okay ba siya? Do you guys get along? Or
Really?
are you guys fighting? Is there like tension in the room? Like, is there competition?" It's always like that. For some reason, women are always being pitted against one another. And to see like such strong female characters, such strong female athletes actually go beyond what they need to do to, extend a hand of grace or like even just camaraderie to a fellow female athlete, I'm just like, pwede naman, di ba?
See, the funny thing is, you were bringing up Serena, and I was talking about Naomi Osaka, but this goes back to last year's U.S. Open.
Really?
Because it was Serena and Naomi Osaka in the finals of the U.S. Open last year. And Serena Williams lost. And Naomi Osaka won, and the entire crowd was booing her.
Oh, yes, I read about this. That's her pala.
That was her. So when
crying.
she was crying, and they were like, and when she was holding her trophy, she literally looked at the crowd and said, "I'm sorry."
Oh.
So this is now, you could see, because Serena got the mic and said, "No, you are wonderful. Don't mind what they're saying. Don't let them steal your moment." And 1 year later, it's Osaka doing the same for Coco Gauff. And what was funny was that when Coco Gauff lost and Naomi Osaka won, you did not see this from the crowd this time around. You didn't see the booing to who they thought should have won or who they wanted to win. They were embracing all of it. And to piggyback of what you were saying, don't you think it's funny that in the industry that we're in, where it seems like they're pitting females against other females, there's a stigma for it. But now the stigma in competitive nature, in sports, is where they're coming together and banding together. And that is now where the narrative is going. And I think that is where sportsmanship and, I guess, human kindness needs to go, and they're leading the way in terms of that.
And I think also, like, not even just in this particular industry, but you see it in schools.
Yes.
As you mentioned earlier, right? You see it in different industries that there really is like this preconceived notion of, oh, women have to compete against other women. And then there's a fanfare around it that, oh, it's so cool to see women just being catty to one another and being sarcastic, the devil wears Prada type of thing, right? But seeing how women and men can be really, really successful in whatever fields they are rooted in and still be competitive, but at the same time not hostile.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing,
See,
right?
that's where it is very different on the men's division. I think that we have to take the way that the women's division is going, and I think that needs to be something that will be spread across, like we were saying, across all sports, across all facets, in all industries, that let's start lifting each other up, because one, it makes for better competition. Everyone gets better when it's this way. And two, these are the stories that are better to be talked about in the media. And in podcasts like this.
I guess women have become tired of like everything that we have to follow or the molds that we have to follow, even with regards to the relationships that we carry, right? And so we're trying to make a conscious effort to really just go like, no, the cycle is gonna stop here. I'm not gonna let the society or whatever, the preconceived notions of what athleticism or women in sports should be
Or
like.
quote unquote competition.
Or
Let's keep it
or
at
just
competition, because
competition.
everyone has that.
It doesn't have to be hostile. And then I think, the wonderful thing that we can get from hostile situations in sports, at least at the very least, we can get the fact that there's a room for improvement.
Yes.
And if people start acknowledging that na, alam mo, we can actually improve on this side of the sport so that we can stop focusing on the like fighting in court and screaming at each other and start focusing really on the sport. But then again, there are other sports kasi
Yes.
that actually like it adds to the flavor of it. Like whenever I watch UFC, sometimes I really watch the media content before the fight because I just want to see how they're talking to each other. If they're gonna kiss each other on the lips or something.
But see, that's where I guess as somebody that is in like sports media, that is something that we look for. We look for building sports stories. But at the same time, when this came across our desk and I sat down and I had to write this script, I was thinking, you know what? I could easily, make this more of a, not an important topic. Let's go with some people that are fighting. But no, this is,
Very
again,
important.
something that we need to talk about. I guess in terms of competitive nature, you've done like triathlons and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I play more video games. So like I guess the culture in video games is a lot more, I guess, attacking. Like they'll make fun of me when I die. They'll dance on me. With triathlons, how is it? How is the sportsmanship in that type of area?
I mean, because it's a very difficult sport. It's very straining at that too. So it's just encouraging. Most of the time, you really just find people who are encouraging. I've never been in the competitive side of triathlon. Like, I've always competed and I did the podium finish a couple of times. But I've never really encountered anything horrible.
Or racing, when you were racing.
Racing, oh. Well, yeah, I think with racing, it's a bit more competitive, but we always dub racing as a gentleman's sport, where you have to really be a gentleman when you win and when you lose. You have to be a gentleman about it. When somebody's making a pass, you have to be a gentleman about it because it's the safety and the life of the person,
Yes.
right? When you make a bad turn, when you're trying to hit your apex, but then a car is there, like keeping you from hitting that apex, you don't hit that apex just so the other car will not, parang hindi mo babanggain yung
Yeah.
isang kotse for the sake of you winning, right? So I think going back to our first thing that we were talking about, Kenny, in the beginning of this podcast, I think the reason why sports is so important is apart from the whole competition, apart from gaining awards and apart from pushing the boundaries of a human being, right? It's really a lot of character building. I mean, we hear it from adults and parents all the time that, oh, you should enroll your kids in group sports or in their own sports while they're still young so that they learn to work with other people and to really train, right? And for the discipline of it. But even now, as adults, when you see it, I think the reason why sports is so endearing is because it inspires people to grow that kind of character that's willing to push themselves, not just for the betterment of themselves, but also for the betterment of the entire community.
That is fantastic. That is a great way to put it.
Right?
For somebody that doesn't play a lot of competitive sports, you did that perfectly.
I'm very competitive, and it was only through sports that I actually understood when I started doing triathlon already, and I was pushing my body, right? And I thought to myself before, I didn't like to do sports because like I was pushing my body. Sabi ko, it's just physical thing, right? But then you realize that it's more than just physical. You all of a sudden build relationships with your teammates.
These are the messages that need to be put out there that are wonderful, that will bring a lot of positivity, and yet at the same time, not sacrifice getting better. Competition makes improvement. No. You can have improvement without smashing your tennis racket on the floor.
If you had kids one day, what sport would you want for
All
them
of
to
them.
do?
Because I did all of them, and I did not do well in all of them. So I
So
want
you want
them
them to try?
to find the one that they're good at. I just want them to try everything because I think that it's a great character building, facility and a lot of ways for that they would learn camaraderie and dedication and responsibility as well. But at the same time, the moment that they choose not to and they want to do something else, I would be behind them 100%. Like if all of a sudden they said, you know what, Dad, I want to write a story, or I want to be a director.
Don't you agree, though, that I think because of the amount of information, knowledge, and just the kinds of content that we have now, younger people and adults, we've become more in need of ways to express ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Because I think we have reached a point now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're somebody that a lot of people look up to in terms of creativity, because you have your music, you have your vlog, you have your Instagram, you have
Don't
your
forget
Twitter,
my podcast.
you have your podcast.
Adulting with Joyce.
You have-
listen to it after this episode.
You have That's Wonderful. I think that we have gotten to a point where writing has kind of like moved to a backseat. Has become a lot more of a visual age where it's pictures, it's videos, and a lot of listening in terms of podcasts and music. Do you think that writing is still at the core of what creativity is? Ooh, bigat nun. Sige, sagutin mo yun.
Well, yeah. I think so. But I think we don't need to really put a boundary as to what creativity is, because some people really are more visually creative and some people really are more writing creative, right? But I think the importance of writing and reading is because it trains your brain in ways that is very different from what visual training can be.
Yeah.
I started writing when I was maybe around 12 years old. My dad came to me and he was just like, alam mo anak, masyado kang madaming iniisip. At 12 years old, right? Like your dad is telling you, you think too much and you're also melodramatic. So obviously I started writing in my notebooks and my journals, right? And then I started writing on my blog. And the reason why my dad told me that was because sabi niya, you write these things down because writing you can actually keep, right? So 5 years from now, you reread the things that you've written and you tell me how much you've changed as a person. If you still believe in the same philosophies about love and life is still important or not. I think that's why we have to encourage writing and reading more for not just for kids but for us adults too. There's a research that actually says that your brain becomes better with comprehension, with imagination, with forming sentences when you read a lot. That's why if you notice, the more you read, the more you write, right? You've never noticed that?
No.
What? Really?
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of my writing is work related. I don't have a lot of creative writing. Whenever my writing comes out, it's always writing scripts or, doing this and that for work. But the one thing that a lot of people don't know is that there are a ton of great writers out there, and they're writing great stories that a lot of the younger, millennials and the Gen Zs that they are reading, because a lot of people think people aren't reading anymore, but the truth is they are. They're just not reading where they used to be.
Yeah.
Now there's people reading billions on billions of reads on short stories and on like Wattpad, where there's a lot of young that are writing great stories being made into movies and all of that on Wattpad. And now these writers are going to have an avenue with a collaboration that Wattpad is doing with View.
Yeah.
That it's going to be made into hopefully great short story films or, maybe even series down the road. I love where this collaboration between these two gigantic forces are going to be teamed up together.
Yeah, I remember when I studied in Oxford a couple of years ago.
Sorry.
And one of my classmates, she's Indian, and she was studying philosophy with me, right? But then she told me, I'm a writer. And I go, really? That's cool. She says, I write a lot of short stories in Wattpad. And I have a lot of followers
That is
already
awesome.
who love to read it. And so now she started with short stories, right? And I still follow her on Instagram. And so now she would sometimes post about her poetry. And then she now has merch for her followers to really buy. It's crazy because nga, of platforms like these where you actually can publish your work and see how people like it. If you heard about this amazing Wattpad story, it's called After. It garnered billions with a B.
Wow.
Of views and reads in Wattpad before it became a best-selling book, before it became one of the highest-rated movies in 2019. It won 3 Teen Choice Awards. So obviously, you can only really see the potential of a story until you put it out there.
Yes.
And you can really only put it out there until you have a platform to put it out there. And going back to what you said kanina, right? It's a very visual generation, what we have now. But with this collaboration between View, the channel, and Wattpad, you actually serve both generations or
Yes.
both kinds of people that love reading, that enjoy, reading and letters on sentences on a page. But then also you can see how it visually comes alive with their collaboration with you.
Like, for instance, for me, whenever I see a comic book movie come to life, it's always like, oh, I read the comic book, and there's that kilig when you start to see like the trailer come out.
Yeah.
And with you, with all the books that you read, whenever you see it being turned into a movie, there's like that anticipation, right?
Yeah.
So when you start following all of these stories on Wattpad and they get turned into it to view like short story films or something, I know that all of these Gen Z and millennials and the ones that have subscribed to all of these stories, they're going to have that anticipation on their side as well.
Yeah. And I think also it's just to see that these stories are coming alive. It's really such an encouragement for other people and other young people to actually try and find their voice also and share the stories that they may have.
And you have your stories in maybe a Google Doc, put it on Wattpad. Who knows?
Yeah.
This might be the chance that you were looking for. Just put it out there and we'll see how it goes.
Hey, by the way, I was chosen to be the ambassador for World Vision and DepEd's Brigada Pagbasa.
Look at you! Changing the world!
One book at a
one
time.
Deaf Ed at a time.
No, but I only bring that up because the whole campaign really wants to focus on helping every Filipino child not only learn to read, but also love reading. Because every, teacher that you've ever come across, right, will always tell you that the kids need to learn how to read because
Yes.
it's very, very important for them to feel confident so that they can learn more, they can understand better. And I think with seeing collaborations and just people pushing for Wattpad and View and all of these things, you get to engage a whole generation of young children, young Filipinos, who will then be confident enough to actually not just read books and love reading and learn how to read, but also write them.
Exactly.
Write those books, guys.
Because everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story to tell.
Exactly. Okay.
Awesome.
Time to move on now to our Wonder Poll. So
Also wonderful.
this is where we have 3 topics, and we give our take on it. And then you guys, of course, all you need to do is use the hashtag WonderPoll on which one of the topics that you think, whichever ones that you wanted to react to. We do see them all. We did see them. Thank you for all the ones that you guys responded to. So we'll start out with one that is causing a huge debate online. This is something that is very, very much talked about in terms of the pop culture aspect of it all. And we were talking about View a while ago. This is something that goes across the board on all streaming sites. The start of binge watching culture versus weekly releases of your favorite series. Because there is a movement now that Netflix will be releasing shows on a weekly basis.
But why?
Exactly. How do you like your shows? Do you like it like the 10 or 8 episode drop, or on a weekly basis? Like,
With my patience parts, what do you think?
I know you're more of a binge because give me all of the albums now. Like, I want the discography of them all. Or like, I want all the episodes all at the same time.
Sporadically.
So you're not into weekly releases.
Okay, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I only say this because of my erratic schedule.
Okay.
And I feel like with the kind of lifestyle that we have here in Manila, with the traffic and then the odd office hours and then people just jumping from one place to another, a lot of millennials travel a lot for work. It's easier for us to actually have like the power to choose whenever you want
Yes.
to watch your shows. But then also I like the effort of Netflix because if I was just at home and I was doing my work as a writer, as a podcaster, right? If I get like a weekly release, I have something to look forward to every week because I always hate myself for finishing a series too fast, too soon.
Okay, I agree with that. But on the flip side, like for instance, I think that there needs to be a balance of both. Because for one, I want to watch every single episode of Money Heist in a row. Like I finished 30 episodes in 54 hours.
That's insane.
I don't know how I did that. But at the same time, I enjoy watching like shows like Patriot Act, which is by Hassan Minhaj, who on a weekly basis would release like a political satire show.
Yeah.
So I think that there are some shows that need to be released on a binge 10 episode run. And there are some that need to be released on a weekly basis. Okay, moving on. Topic 2. Gen Z using TikTok as their platform for advocacy or to express their opinion.
I was actually reading the news bit about this, and there is this young lady who actually made like a couple of TikToks. Apparently, sabi ko, Gen Z uses TikTok. So akala ko, pumipili sila ng kanta na may message.
Yung sasayaw sila, tapos yung magpapalit-palit sila ng damit. Yeah,
No, but now I found out that you can actually release videos in TikTok na parang Instagram stories.
Yes.
Bakit? May TikTok ka ba?
Wala.
O, tingnan mo, maka-yes ka dyan. The users of TikTok are 24 years old and younger. The youngins are actually using this to voice out their opinions. So there's this young lady in the States who, in their district daw, so the teachers are asking for a pay raise, right? And the government wasn't giving it to them, or the district wasn't giving it to them. So she called for all of her friends through TikTok to actually walk out on September 5.
Yes.
Right? But then what happened was, before September 5, the teachers, after 13 years, got their pay raise.
Yes.
So I think this is very wonderful.
I love the fact that using any platform for an advocacy, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but an advocacy that would be better for the country, better for ourselves, better for the world in terms of the environment. I think that any Gen Z that wants to start an advocacy and put it out, I am 100% for it. Use your voice, use your platform, and make a change.
But also, make sure that you actually do your research.
Yes.
Make sure that you educate yourself, that you learn more about it, that you don't just act upon your emotions. Because sometimes that's a mistake that we all usually make. You know, younger generations, older generations, we jump into conclusions and we become emotional about it without really thinking about the consequences of our actions, right? So with anything, when you have the power to voice out your opinion, you also have to realize that you have the responsibility of that, of doing it properly and doing it the right way.
Okay, topic number 3. Lowering of costs like the newly launched iPhone 11.
Yes, that's wonderful. And that's it for this episode. Yun lang pala. Sobrang consumer eh.
The one thing that I can react on, you're like, okay, let's end the show. I'm happy that gadgets are getting cheaper. I hope that it just doesn't, lessen the quality of the gadgets, because a lot of people, it's still a lot of money for a lot of people. I did stay up to watch the keynote address.
Oh my, so did I.
No, I really do. It's something that I really do. I really do watch the keynote address.
He does, he actually stays
legit.
up and watches it because he wants to know the technical features of whatever gadget they're releasing.
Yeah.
And one time, my laptop died on me and he was just like, because you haven't shut it down for a couple of months. I'm like, it's on sleep. It's sleeping. It's getting the rest that it needs.
No.
Apparently, that's not a thing.
No. So again, I take care of your gadgets, update your software. Like I keep telling you all the time. Lowering of gadget costs is good because I have a lot of gadgets that I want to buy. So I need to buy more of them. I'm completely for that. Okay, wonderful on that one. I loved it. That was a great show.
That was a lot of fun, guys.
That
Thank
was
you very
long.
much.
We would like to encourage everyone to please visit the That's Wonderful newsletter, of course, on Globe's website at www.globe.com.ph to see other wonderful content just like this podcast.
And we hope that this episode and this entire podcast will really encourage you to live life with so much wonder and love. Because at the end of the day, no matter what platform you use to voice out your opinion or whatever platform you use to buy new products and new gadgets, it's only wonderful if you decide to make it wonderful.
Grabe! So when I buy that iPhone 11, I'm going to be like, Joyce told me this is wonderful!
Wonderful!
Thank you guys for listening to the show. Just hold on at the end of this one. Episode 2 will be playing automatically, so you don't gotta go anywhere. Thank you for joining us. I'm Aaron Atayde.
I'm Joyce Pring.
And you guys can catch us in a couple weeks for all the new trends when they come out, tips and tidbits that make the world that's wonderful.
See ya.
Bye-bye.